Intel wouldn't be cool unless we brought a little hardware with us today, and I'll explain more of this at the end of my 4 minutes here. So we're going from non-agile to agile, right? And how we're doing that is we're taking platform as a service internally, and we're instrumenting the entire thing. So what we're talking about here is an application server agent that ties the front end to the back end, right? Because we have to tie those transactions together. A lot of the tools you see here at the conference are purely front end or purely back end, right? And we have to tie those two together. So we're instrumenting that. Right now, we're still inviting developers into our PaaS environment and doing a lot of developer ergonomics work to understand how we can be like Heroku. So this is an internal PaaS environment. We've got micro marketing sites that are being put into that. And there's some Ruby there, there's Java, there's some .NET. So it's a mix of 5 different application servers, and we can deploy that in minutes for developers. So, management gets it. They understand 2 things about an application server agent APM solution. They understand that, 1, it's agile, right? Because it takes us from the front end to the back end. We can see from browser to disk everything that's going on. And that's key, right? We're a semiconductor company, and we have to understand what our key customers that are using our foundries are actually doing, because every minute counts. And you can only do that when you actually tie the front end to the back end. The other thing is since iOS and iPhone are 5 years old this week, and there's been a revolution, there's this whole thing about the user experience, right? Everybody at Intel is keenly tied into the entire user experience quotient. So let me show you some of the problems we've seen in the non-agile space, because I just explained the agile space. And one of the things I see, I get questions from people like, can I use these APM solutions in pre-prod? I go, yeah, if there's activity. So what we need to do is create more of a CI environment. We have some projects that are leaders and lead vehicles in the ability to actually use their pre-prod environments in an enterprise solution more frequently. But what we want to do is use some automation, right? And exercise these application servers and have our database calls and our web service calls be exposed, right? What our architects want for a particular domain is they want to be able to see their web services for their entire domain, be it service management, be it their HR calls. They want to see everything's being built on SOA at Intel, and they want to be able to see their entire domain. Then they have a graph to work with. Right? As they get more agile, then they can see how this graph changes, and they can work from a tiered response time perspective on their code. So all this takes is a little bit of JMeter. You put some HTTP load on the application server, and you're able to quickly get what is a stale pre-production environment up and more agile, for lack of a better word, right? And then the next thing is training. There's just so few people at Intel that understand performance management from the performance response time space. They understand throughput, they understand scale, but they don't understand tiered response time. For example, let me give you one example. Maybe some of you have done this. You take a Wireshark and an HTTP watch trace of the same exact user workstation, and you're going to see much different results, right? That's because it's where you're actually pulling the information from, right? The TCP stack is much different than the DLL that Simon Perkins wrote. And you will be able to see variances based on, is it a network problem, or is it something in the area of the browser's call chain, right? So these are things we actually do case studies on and put wikis for. We have one of the biggest Wikimedia environments in the world that spans globally, and we use this as a case study environment to show people what to do. Run those templates. So everybody knows there's a mobile revolution going on, right? So what we have is a lot of teams doing innovation, right? They're just taking new stuff. They're using Sencha Touch. They're using jQuery Mobile. I hear a new framework almost every day. And so what me and the application architect are doing at Intel to centralize this is, as people innovate, we then actually improve. And in my talk at 1 o'clock, we'll talk about ones where we innovated on iOS and we built the entire application over again in HTML5. Then we did a 3-week study with users and said, which one is better? We actually got the HTML5 Sencha Touch app to perform better based on users' actual experience. It was the responsiveness that we heard earlier in the talk. It was much more responsive, and now we're porting that to everything, right? Because it's a pure HTML5 application. Right? So this is where I want to actually put the real user measurement time, right? To make sure that I get everything into these templates, because these templates will be reused maybe 100 times, right? Or more. So these are some of the innovations that we found in the last year of having some Agile APM solutions that work in the server and tie the front end to the back end. And I just want to remind people we're a cloud builder, and we have an amazing amount of cloud material out there on the web. Not many people see it. You can obviously spin the Google dial and get to it. But it's out here at intel.com/IT. And that's really how we're moving to Agile APM, is through cloud automation. It's the only way to do it, right? You chef and puppet this environment, and then everything just comes up and works, because we don't have time to actually manage a big APM environment. And one more thing, since I wanted to mention, I'm going to be giving away some SSDs at my talk. So if you've got some knowledge of APM and want to test it out, you should come to my talk. I'll have a structured Q&A session on some of the key learnings of APM. So I hope to see you there at 1 o'clock.